Hey everyone, welcome back to Citywide Bytes. I'm your host, Max Bowen. In this episode, I'm talking with Valerie, Rachel, and Greg Lawrence of the Americana folk band Wayward Vine. They just released their debut album, The Fall, and we talk all about that, as well as the songs that really connected with them. Of course, we have to talk band origin stories, how they got their name, and how the two pivoted to the Americana style. They also have some great shows coming up, including one with an old friend of the program. Enjoy!
All right. So, Valerie, Greg, first off, welcome to the show. It is great to have you both here. And for those who are really unfamiliar with Wayward Vine, I'd like to ask an origin question. How the two of you meet, and what made you decide, hey, let's form a band?
Yeah, well, thanks for having us, Max. So I guess so we date pretty far back, but I was in a bunch of different sort of projects for a while, and but I had never sort of taken the step of saying, I want to really go out on my own and create and make some music. And so when I decided to do that, I think Greg was also kind of looking for someone to be kind of a songwriting and artistic partner. And we actually ended up meeting on, you might call it a dating site of sorts for bandmates, where you kind of put out your profile and you're like, I'm looking for, someone in the Americana space, singer songwriter, and so Greg reached out to me on there, and and we just kind of really hit it off from the beginning in terms of both our artistic style, where we were looking to go with our music. And Greg, I don't know if you want to add, other details, but that's kind of our history together as well.
Yeah, not much more to add. Like Valerie said, I'm a late bloomer. I was, playing music for family and friends, and not much else. But I always had this kind of yearning to do more. And I call it like kitchen parties and campfires was my my old jam. So and then I just decided I needed to do something for myself to really fulfill, something that I wanted. And like Valerie said, yeah, we met up online, did the profile thing, and we had a couple of sort of mutual connections on there that somehow managed to get us together, and then we survived, obviously, and flourished, I think. So
Yeah, I'd say.
I think we're up to four or 5 years now since we first met.
Oh,
Just
cool. Wow.
And
All
a lot of the
right.
songwriting generation was kind of during the pandemic as well, when, not like we had a ton of free time because we both were dealing with a lot of, work and family obligations when everything was kind of shut down. But also, I definitely think it allowed for a bit more creativity and kind of our songwriting to really bloom at that time. So it was a great time to actually meet Greg and start working on, becoming Wayward Vine, because we just had that opportunity and moment to do that.
Yeah. I find it really interesting that at a time when everything was like shut down, you couldn't have shows, you couldn't have any kind of events. You had this whole artistic community that is just like flourishing because people saying, "Oh yeah, I wrote my book during this time. I started a band. I built a studio." It's just amazing to me how like you kind of like pivot and just like make it work.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And for me, it was sort of a transitional time, I think, in the music piece, because I had started actually as kind of a classically trained musician, and it took me a very long time. Kind of like Greg said, he has a huge family history in music, but it took him some time to kind of evolve into, the artist that he wanted to be. And I feel similarly because I had started, I played classical piano and violin, and I did orchestra and choir, and I studied opera, and it took me a really long time to kind of, I think, discover myself musically. And I think having that time in, 2020 to 2022, let's say, to really think about, what I wanted to write was, great for me as well.
I do want to ask about that, Valerie, because like reading about your background, I thought, okay, so class trained a vocalist, violinist, pianist, and now you do Americana. How do you kind of like make that switch from like one to the other?
It's a great question. So I guess with respect to violin, I absolutely love the instrument, but I think from the time I was probably a teen, I never loved how I was playing it. And I always felt like, okay, it's sort of laborious. You take it out, you've got to tune it, you've got to, carry it everywhere you go, and then you're stuck to this, everything written on the page. And I always felt like there was so much more you could do with the instrument. And I think what kind of helped me make that switch was my prior band actually. So I was playing for a while with Muhammad Seven in the Spring, which is also a fantastic band. And our lead singer, he ended up moving to New York, and he kind of has his own solo career now. So he's really wonderful. And so he kind of found me out of nowhere, actually through a Craigslist ad where he needed a violinist and backup vocalist. And a friend of mine found him and was like, "Oh, you play violin? You should really try for this." So I was like, "Americana? What are you talking about?" And I auditioned, and it was a great fit. And so I played with them for a while up until the pandemic, actually. And I think I learned how to just kind of get out of my head musically with the violin and just improvising and discovering all the things I could do with it. And when I realized there was so much growth in there for me, I felt like, this was the type of music that really spoke to me, and the kind of music I wanted to write as well.
I like that. All right, Greg, same question. Americana style. What about it appeals to you, and what kind of like drew you in?
Into the Americana space
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah.
Yeah, like my roots are varied, I would say, but kind of as I would say as my musical palette matured, I just sort of got onto that just the sound of the acoustic guitar actually is kind of where I started. And I grew up with acoustic, like, my dad was an amateur musician. He was in a band for a little bit. But he had acoustic, really nice vintage guitars around the house, and I would, kind of listen to some of his stuff, but also, when nobody was looking, I would pick up the guitar and fiddle around a little bit with it. So, influences like one I'll mention is like, somebody like Gordon Lightfoot, right? I'm Canadian, so he's a Canadian legend, and so it's that kind of just songwriting authenticity that really spoke to me. And, I had many other influences. I really started on classic rock, but, as things evolved, it just that nice just resonant sound of beautiful songwriting accompanied by that stripped down instrumentation really, really drew me in. And I wanted to, pursue it just with, my later influences that I picked up on.
Okay. So let us talk about The Fall. This was your debut album. You released this just a few months ago. I am loving this album. This is a great, great collection of music. But what's the work that went into making this happen?
Yeah, what's interesting about us is we brought a lot of songs to the table individually and somehow kind of merged them into something that I think hopefully is pretty cohesive in the end, both artistically, stylistically, but also I think emotionally, right? I think what we were kind of trying to do when we were thinking about arranging songs on the album and putting them together was to kind of bring the listeners through a bit of a journey, an emotional journey. And it's sort of seasonal in some sense. You can see, it's titled The Fall, right, which is a season. But we also feel like there's a lot in there about emotional experience, kind of the highs and lows associated with those seasonal changes, which sometimes come from the experiences you're having, but also just from the seasons themselves. I think a lot of people, even going into a seasonal change, kind of experience some heightened emotions or sense of transition. And I think you kind of experience that hopefully a bit in the album. And in terms of kind of the work and efforts that went into it, I think, a lot of that also was, we found some really wonderful bandmates who really brought it to life for us because, Greg and I were working very closely together as singer-songwriter partners. But, then we got, Yoni Gordon to put together these really gorgeous, sort of haunting guitar parts that have a really special tone to them that just, I don't think anyone else could have done that. Honestly, he's amazing. And, we have our drummer, Jim St. Pierre, we call him the Energizer Bunny because he is just sort of like our, he's our rock, I think, in terms of, getting this done. So, and then we, of course, brought in Jose Downs as a bassist who I had worked with in Muhammad Seven in the Spring. And he was so amazing, both from an arranging standpoint and also just musicality, that even though he's living in New Mexico now, I was like, we really want to have him for this album. So he gave us his time and energy. And it was really, I think, amazing what he could put together from all the way over there. So as you can see, a lot of moving pieces to kind of get this together. But I think we're really happy with what we created.
Oh,
Yeah, and
definitely.
it was this combination of in studio work, primarily, Val, myself, and Jim, and then Yoni and Jose did their magic entirely remotely, and they would send it back, right, and into the mix, and we were like, wow, like that's just that makes the song pop. So
Oh, absolutely. Now, for me, listening to this, Hannah, I think was my favorite song. I just loved that one. It just kind of spoke to me. I love the story being told. Is there a song for either of you that is really not like a favorite? 'Cause I know you can't pick a favorite, right? But one that really like connects with you?
Yeah, I would say for me, when Greg showed me what he had written for Turn Yourself Around, I was really moved by it. I think partially because, he went to me and said, Val, I wrote this song, but I think it would sound better in your voice. And I was like, oh, interesting. Let me see, let me see what I can do with it. Because, sometimes when someone gives you a song that sort of they built the bones of, and then you're going to sing it, you wonder if it's sort of going to feel authentic or real to you in your voice. And so, I think having sung it, I actually sometimes get really emotional, kind of bringing those words to life. And I think with all the things we've seen, over the years, kind of some of the turmoil and struggles that our country has faced, no matter, what your thoughts are on it, right? I think all of us feel like it's probably been, a bit of a struggle, for a lot of individuals today. And so I think when I sing it, I really sort of feel that. And I think sort of, what Greg brought to life with that song, just in the melody, which I think is very haunting, and also in the lyrics, which when we sing it live, I think people are really feeling that emotionally. That one has really spoken to me.
thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, I shot for a kind of like a haunting melody, including there's this finger picking intro that is intended to be very melancholy. For me, so I'm gonna pay a compliment to Valerie with her songwriting. End of May, I just love to play. It is just a gorgeous song, and again, like a lot of our music, like the melody belies the mood of the lyrics, or vice versa, because it's a dark, kind of a dark, sort of scenario that's being told in the story of the lyrics. It's, we call it the prettiest breakup song ever written, and that final verse, which is sort of double the length of the other two verses, just paints a picture that is, it hit me personally, because we've all had our journeys with relationships with different people that cross our paths, and just she couldn't have picked a different combination of words to nail the story better than the ones she chose. So
Mhm.
Thanks, Greg.
Now, I imagine a lot of folks are wondering, when is album two coming out?
Yeah, well, we have a whole bunch of, we like to say, the back burner songs that we're
Sure.
actively working on, and there's probably 20 songs that could be on album two. And I think our biggest job right now is honing it down. And it may be that we come out with a 5-song EP, or one sort of single before we do album two. But yeah, I'd also love to hear from listeners what they want to hear, because I think we could go in a number of different directions with that album. I think we've sort of had an impulse to write some livelier songs, because I think album one it's an emotional experience, and it can be a little bit intense in a good way, I'd say. And also themes a little bit more of toward the sort of sadness and triumph over sadness, which I think, ends up sort of leaving you with a bit of a catharsis. But album two, I'd say, I think we'd love to write a couple, foot stompers and put those forward too. So I don't know, Greg,
Yes,
you probably have
yes.
other thoughts on album two as well.
Yeah, well, I love a good foot stomper.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing, like, I'm interested in sort of progressing our sound a little bit, always, sort of staying in the zone that defines, what we sound like, but the evolution, so to speak. And I was experimenting, which I shared with Al a couple of weeks ago, I think, just sort of a different picking pattern on my rhythm guitar playing that will sound different from anything that I've done so far. So it's little things like that. But yeah, I think the other thing is, um, we're I think we're very good at like coming up with individual songs and the ideas that sort of go behind that. I As we sort of explore the creation of the next thing, whether it's an EP or a full LP length, um, having a cohesive blend of music where the songs all kind of work together in a like a full story, I think would be the songwriter's challenge, an arranging challenge that I think we're up to, but yet to be explored, I'd say.
I I like that you're looking to like try like new stuff, especially where like you just released a debut album and you're and for like album two, you're thinking, yeah, let's try some like foot stompers, let's do this, let's do that. I kind of like the more like explorative attitude. But I also want to ask about the name of the group, Wayward Vine. How'd you come up with this one? Because I love these stories.
Val, you want to take the
Sure.
first stab
Yeah.
at it?
So interestingly, we kind of started as a bit of a different arrangement, and we went by the name West of Vine, and so we were sort of a group of three, and and so ultimately we ended up going in our own different directions. So West of Vine still exists as a band, and they're wonderful as well. You can check them out. And we went off and thought about, what do we want for a name? Do we really want to, do something different or similar? And I think after we really went in all different directions, I think we had a list of maybe, oh gosh, 20 different names, maybe 30 that we could choose from. And ultimately we thought about the music and we were like, you know what? I think the vine, right? So the word vine, nature theme kind of, um, and also the idea of sort of twisting, turning, emotions kind of moving in different directions. We felt like that was a good fit. And then Wayward, both, we were kind of joking, we're the Wayward ones because, the band split and we went off on our own. So it was a little bit tongue in cheek there. But also, I think, some of our songs touch on themes of kind of, um, personal difficulties, challenges and kind of, you know, the choices you make to kind of go in one direction where, maybe things would be more difficult or challenging, or maybe you kind of, find yourself and get back on a different path. So we actually felt like it reflected the music as well. So in the end, we asked our bandmate, hey, how do you feel about us using this name? You're going to be West Vine, we're going to be Wayward Vine, and it all worked out great. But so that's the history of our name.
Hmm.
That is both amazing and also like hilarious that
Yeah.
you split up, you go separate ways. You're like, hey, we need a new name. Wayward Vine, that's good too. Yeah. So you got
Yeah.
like West of Vine, Wayward Vine. That works well.
Kind of
Mhm.
like the stepchild, right? But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I do remember the process. Just to add to like I remember charting out theme words. So not necessarily like here's a band name, here's a band name, here's a band name. It was more, what is our sound? What are we trying to convey in our songwriting and mood and just exploratory themes behind our writing. And we just yeah, I think we, like Val said, like we had a whole bunch of theme words that then sort of germinated into potential band name ideas. And I feel like we went to the end of the world and back before we came back to that combination of words. Wayward.
Mhm.
So.
Excellent. All right. So let's talk shows because check out your site. I do see you have a couple shows coming up. One is on December 13th, 4 p.m. is a Saturday at the Jungle Music Club. I've heard so much about the Jungle, but I have yet to actually go there. What's this place all about?
We love the jungle. So this would be our second time performing there. And what I love about it is it's still one of those little indie music clubs that you kind of feel like you've stumbled upon and walked into something really cool.
Hmm.
Um, and it's yeah, I mean they have such a wide range of bands there too, right? They don't find themselves sort of bound to a certain genre or, we'll only book this type of act. So I think the last time we were there, we found ourselves playing with some really interesting bands. And this time we sort of, I think, a little bit curated the set of folks that we'll be playing with to some extent because we're playing with Three at Home again, who are one of our bands that we
I
love,
love
love
Three
to
at
play
Home.
with.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. I
hmm
love those guys. Oh, old friends. I
Yeah, they're
love them.
fantastic. They're all, they're so talented, Berkeley,
Hmm.
musicians and amazing songwriters,
Hmm.
and just,
Good
uh,
people.
you know, top of the field, so to speak, in terms of, how they play and sing. So we love them, and that's going to be a really fun show. And then I think you may see we've also got our album. So again, album came out earlier this year, but we've got an album release show coming up, so we're really excited about that because we'll also have some physical CDs for the first time, which we're really looking forward to letting
Oh,
people take a look
cool.
at. Hmm.
All right. So
Yeah.
let us talk now about what is down the road. What is next for Wayward Vine, especially for like 2026?
Yeah, Greg, do you want to chime in?
Shall we start with the video?
Oh yeah. Well, so we do have a music video for the fall coming out, and that's been a really fun experience. I think for us, it'll be our first music video, and we're using sort of not actors, but actually my daughter's going to be in it, which is wonderful because actually the song explores a lot of themes that my family was dealing with maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So it's actually very emotional for me to have her in the video, and she's sort of really excited about it as well because she loves to act and stuff. So that's going to be awesome, and you'll see that coming out soon. And then, like you said, Max, we're thinking about a second album down the pipeline. So all of that work is kind of happening in the background as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Valerie, Rachel, Greg, Lawrence, thank you both so much for joining me. I really appreciate this. It's been a lot of fun, just like diving into the music and learning about just all about Wayward Vine style.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much for having
Max.
us, Max.
All right.
This was a really fun conversation.
Yeah,
I'm
so nice
glad.
talking
I'm
with you.
glad. All right. So, folks, we have told you all the information. Now, here is what you do. You go to waywardvine.com. Everything is there. You'll see that you'll see the show listings December 13th, 4 p.m. at the Jungle with 3 at Home. That's going to be an amazing show. I wish I could be there. So make yourself, if you're in the area, go down, check it out. And of course, follow the band on their socials, follow them on Spotify. Let us know, what's your favorite song from the fall? Which one connected the most with you? And as always, folks, thank you for checking that show. I appreciate this. This has been Citywide Bytes. I'm your host, Max Bowen, and we'll see you all next time.